Hello and welcome to the I Got Thoughts podcast, a space on the internet where we talk about anything and everything media. I'm your host, Elisa Hamoud, and I'm excited to announce our four-part segment talking about the plight of Netflix. Starting with today's episode, Documentaries. I don't know what to believe. As an avid watcher of documentaries, I enjoy Netflix selection from Fire Festival to Tell Me Who I Am, from Our Planet to The Curve. There's a documentary for everyone, even about zoophiles, though that one isn't on Netflix. But have you ever watched a documentary and thought, that's not right? Or this doesn't add up? I certainly have, and it's more dangerous than one might think. So I got thoughts, and we're gonna talk about it. First, let's start with the definition, conventions, and expectations of a documentary. According to Oxford's documentary A Very Short Introduction, a documentary film tells a story about real life with claims to truthfulness. Therefore, when one puts on a documentary, there's an expectation and assumption that what we are watching is either true or factual. To give credit to Netflix, their documentaries usually have that feeling of authenticity, from a fun host to a few experts and interviews. So, why should we think otherwise? And more importantly, why should we care? Consider documentaries as a set of decisions about how to represent reality with the tools available to the filmmaker. These tools can include sound, like dialogue and narration, images, materials shot on location, sound effects like the audio, the animation, and pacing like the length of a scene or the storytelling. Since there is nothing natural about the representation of reality in documentary filmmakers are acutely aware that all their choices shape the meaning they choose, and documentary conventions arise from the need to convince viewers of the authenticity of what they're being told. Now, generally, documentaries with a certain framing or a bit of misinformation isn't horrible. And for clarification's sake, framing means shaping a narrative to favor an interpretation over another. After all, there is no way to make a film without manipulating the information, but we do expect that a documentary will be fair and have honest representation of somebody's experience of reality. But at the same time, we do consume so much these days that we don't dwell on things too much or put too much value into them. But I would like to argue that health documentaries are a bit different. Think of Leonardo DiCaprio's Cowspiracy, The Sustainability Secret, and the Fulkerson's Forks Over Knives, both of which discuss changing diets from animal-based to plant-based. They made big waves when they came out and are currently used by vegans and vegetarians as evidence to why you should change your diet. Even my cousin changed her diet when she watched them. They have a lot of power. And Netflix, for example, has released a fair share of documentaries about health and leading a plant-based healthy lifestyle. The two that I'll be focusing on today, because I have the most beef with them, yes, pun intended, sorry, are What the Health and Down to Earth with Zac Efron. I won't be talking about Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop documentary because I don't think anyone is taking it seriously enough that it will cause damage. Now, What the Health is one of the latest documentaries preaching about going vegan, and is biased to the point of hazardous. Kip Anderson, the host and coincidentally the same director as Cowspiracy, is vegan, which in and of itself isn't a problem. However, the documentary cherry picks and misreports studies to make the case for veganism. Here are some of the wildest pieces of evidence, and I use that word very loosely. Eating processed meats is as bad for you as smoking. Drinking milk causes cancer. One serving of processed meats per day raises the risk of diabetes by 51%. Fish is toxic. 5 to 10% of cancer is caused by genetics, and the rest is caused by food. And my absolute favorite one, eating an egg a day is as bad as smoking 5 cigarettes. I mean, for a documentary that calls itself a combination of Cowspiracy meets Forks Over Knives on steroids, I'm worried. All of these are easily debunked by Vox's Julia Belluz. While some of what Anderson says hold a bit of truth, it cannot be generalized. And as Belluz says, most food documentaries are bad because nutrition science isn't definitive. This thread of biased documentaries and misinformation continues with Zac Efron's documentary, and we'll talk about it right after this quick music break. And we are back. So we started talking about Zac Efron's documentary, and when it came out, it was well received. I mean, they got Zac Efron as a host. However, the pseudoscience mentioned did not go unnoticed by Lindsay Dodson from Insider, who wrote an article titled All the Problematic Pseudoscience Shared by Zac Efron's Health Guru and Guests in His New Netflix Show Down to Earth. This documentary again provides the audience with a slew of disproven or unverified claims, from goat's milk comes out pasteurized. Side note, it doesn't. Please don't drink raw milk from any animal. It can be harmful because it contains bacteria like Campylobacter, E. coli, and Salmonella. To putting your bare feet on the floor resets your biological clock. Again, this is false. I'm not sure where he got this information from, but chronobiologist Professor Russell Foster says there's no evidence at all that a magnetic field can entrain our 24-hour clocks. I mean, the list can go on, but these documentaries are incredibly worrying because they pertain to health and are packaged attractively, from the beautiful scenery to the charismatic hosts. Jack Biter puts it well. The supposed objectivity of these documentaries masks worrying biases. While the audience themselves should be thinking critically about what we are watching, the genre of documentaries comes with the assumption that it will not deceive us. I mean, they're here to teach us, right? We watch documentaries in classrooms, so how bad can they truly be? Well, turns out they can be really bad. But, what can we do about this, and what should we do? For starters, when something feels off about a documentary, especially about health, trust your gut. Take things with a grain of salt and do your own research before you change your diet, lifestyle, or implement any advice. Secondly, documentaries are important reality-shaping communications because of their claim to truth. It can exploit the reality claims of the genre and produce devastating social results or provoke important positive change. So really think critically about what you are watching, who is producing it, and what they want you to take from it. And lastly, just because they have experts, it can still be very biased because all media relies on some sort of framing. I mean, the social dilemma was framed through the experts, and they painted a very specific narrative about social media. All in all, be very careful, think critically, and see you in our next episode about the misrepresentation of Muslim women. I was your host, Elisa Hamoud, and this was part 1 of The Plight of Netflix. If you want to keep up with the I Have Thoughts podcast, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at I Have Thoughts P. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on thinking. Bye!